Hey guys, welcome to the Crime-ology Podcast with T. Siddiqui, and today I have a very, very, very special guest, Kevin Lane.
Very special. More like Laurel and Hardy. I'll be Laurel.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you
It's
so
lovely
much.
Studio.
It is, isn't it? I love it in here. The
Just see
lighting is
Mr.
great.
Beckham in the reception.
Yeah, that
I
was
said, you got
a
one of my
surprise.
books, haven't you? He said, I have.
That was a surprise.
It was a surprise.
He's got one of your books.
One of my books. He had. My friend was a bodyguard for Abramovich, close protection, personal.
Okay.
And Neelam is a beauty therapist on the TV.
Okay.
Cut long story short, my friend's Matthew Tate, that is his daughter, now works with Neelam, who works with the Beckhams.
Okay.
Hence they were given my book 2 years ago, or still under 2 years ago. But he knew straight away, as soon as he seen me.
He knew he was.
Yeah, I said, all right, David, how are you?
Oh.
Yeah. He said, great. But he was busy, and wished him well and went my way.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. Well, if I'd had a photograph of him, I'd have grabbed his arse and see if he flinched. All in the showers, David. You know how it goes. I didn't. So there we go.
Okay, so Kevin, I have done a bit of research on your life story, and I think that you have a very interesting life, to the point where I think that they should even do a movie on you in your life, because it's very, very interesting. I just wanted for you to give the audience, especially for those who don't know you, I know a lot of people do know you, but for those who don't know you, could you just give us a little bit of a background, a little bit of information on your background?
Yeah, so I grew up in the countryside in a family of 4 to begin with. I'm a family of brothers and sisters, siblings now, there's 8 of us. Mother and father separated. I come from a place called Harefield in Middlesex. Village, beautiful village. I've worked hard ever since I was a child in the juniors to provide my own clothing. And I remember I was 12, buying my own clothes at school for that, a different set of clothes every day and a different watch every day. Although the watch was snide, but I was only 12. Okay. But there was nice leather strap watches and things like that. And I went on then in that path with work. I like work. If I believe in something, then I work really hard because I feel like I'm enjoying myself. So from that, I got expelled from school. This is a quick synopsis to get to the other points, because I don't want to labour on and bore people.
Okay.
I come from a fighting man's village. A lot of travellers in the village. Tough village it was. So I used to see SPG vans, Special Patrol Group vans, parked in there, because there were a lot of pubs in the village. So it was a pub crawl village for people to come to, and a big common. There was always fighting in there. So I grew up in that village, then got expelled from school. I just had too much energy, but I loved school. I only bunked off once.
Okay.
I just loved school. Loved it for the sport and things, but I didn't have the attention to sit in a classroom for very long. And the teachers let me see a psychiatrist. They said there's nothing wrong with him, he's got lots of energy. They would have given me medication nowadays if I was a child.
Yeah,
and I'd be like, I'm an own thread. You know what I mean? Walking around not bleeding, knowing who I am or where I am.
Yep.
So with that, I went to a new school and I met the mother of my 2 eldest children, Kim Purcell. Very classy young lady, still is today. Excellent mother. So I then met her family, who was a crime family. I had no idea, because I didn't know who was who in the world. I just come from a village and I was happy with that. I met this family who lived in the next town, but I'd never heard of them. So that shows where my head was at the time. It was girls and work. And then, so I met her. I fancied her mate, but I was told she fancied me, so I thought, cool, she's pretty, I'll go with her.
Okay.
And it was a better choice in the long run.
Okay. Okay.
And I then started working security doors at 18. They asked me to work, which I felt was bloody hell. And I was quite a capable young man for different reasons. And in my book, Fitted Up and Fighting Back, it will tell you why I became a capable lad fighting as a young man, for the reasons that were nurture, not nature. Nurture because of my brother had a serious accident as a child, nearly died. He was helicoptered to the hospital, plates in his head, and he used to have to wear a Mr. Magoo crash helmet, extended, and then with that came kids can be very, very brutal and nasty without realising what they're really doing.
Yeah.
And so with that came me fighting for my brother at a very early age of 3.
Okay, so would you say that's where it started?
That's where it started.
Okay.
Leave my brother alone, picking on him, making him, I can't say cry, but picking on him, he was getting upset, and I just hit him. 2 lads straight away, went wallop, and you can have someone who'll wallop. It might be just fighting for your loved ones and seeing him cry after nearly dying.
It's understandable.
Yeah, now I think about it, it made me a little bit choked then, and because I don't visit that area much in my life. I've only visited it recently.
Okay.
What childhood and why I am the way I am. So then I met Kim, started working licensed premises, because I could come up to you and approach you without you thinking I was violent. I looked like a manager, I was only 11 stone 7. And then I'm working nightclubs I wasn't old enough to be in.
Okay.
And they asked me to go and work them, driving a 911 Porsche, various other cars at 18. I bought my first flat at 18 and sold it, and then just buying them and flipping them, getting a few quid. And I like I say, I love work, but I'd also buy a lorry load of stolen goods.
Okay.
And I've said this, I've repeated it, so I'm not a parrot, but this is the truth. So it might be whiskey, it might be computers, but it could also be a lorry load of washing powder and a lorry load of Tampaxes. They were my best sellers. They just went at the schools like you would never believe. Better than whiskey, better than computers. The women want the washing powder for them. They want the sanitary towels because every month they're using them.
Yeah.
And the whole lorry went in a week.
Yeah, because it's quite expensive.
It's massive.
Yeah.
But at the time, I'll have some of them, because they're in need. So I started selling stuff like that, and then other bits and pieces. Bought a security company to go into camera security way before my time, back in it was in the 80s I bought that. And then that escalated to having lots of doormen working for me. I then got arrested for a few kidnappings, taking people away that I believe deserve to be hurt for their actions, because sometimes I used to believe, should I say, that the police cannot protect you, unfortunately, because they're so overstaffed now, understaffed and overworked. And I started taking law into my own hands, and I went to prison for a kidnapping for being a vigilante, the judge said. I accept that. I didn't give evidence, and I did do the crime.
Okay.
I kidnapped someone and did some terrible things to him. I got the wrong fella, honestly. But he was put up for it by his work comrades and the people local in the area.
Okay.
I'm now friends with him, and I've done restorative justice with him. He's amazing. Lovely, lovely man and all. So that's come out of it, and that's nearly 20-odd years later. So I went to prison for a kidnapping. The police got caught out lying on that one. The chief inspector was writing down material wrong, and it came out in the trial. But anyway, I got out from that in the end. Went to live in Spain, came back from Spain. I didn't get arrested for the murder. So that's probably where we're better off starting.
Yeah. I actually watched that. I done a bit of research on that, on the murder. And I see that they linked you to the murder because of a fingerprint that was on a plastic bag, isn't it?
Yeah, so they had to. I got arrested. The 2 original suspects were arrested by their police handler, which is Detective Sergeant Spackman. He arrested his original suspects, who were a number of factors. They were bragging in the area. They were showing off a gun in a pub, telling people they committed a murder, calling themselves Ronnie and Reggie. And we're still trying to find out which one's Ronnie.
Okay.
The 2 of them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. The evidence was then suppressed that took the case in their direction. They engaged in confidential chats with the police and then moved them in my direction. I was then arrested, and a case was then built around me. They started engaging further in confidential chats and supplying information. And I got that information some years later after I was convicted. And all the evidence that is in the book is so unbelievable. They are making a film about it now. And it's going to be based on true facts, and it's written by the Lennox brothers. And it says the actual film is going to be called Lane, and it comes up on the big red screen. It will say Lane, written by the Lennox brothers, based on true facts. Now, in the name of the father, which was a Guildford 4, they got 9 BAFTAs or something like that because it was so unbelievable. My case is exactly like that, so unbelievable that people are not going to believe it. Except everything I've got in my book in there has been obtained from me from agencies within the criminal justice system. Can't deny it. And law lords know about my case, and MPs and such, and Panorama covered my case. So the film is going to portray the real nitty-gritty stuff. And I think that will catapult me back in the public eye further to bring overwhelming pressure on the powers to be to say, get this conviction overturned. Panorama conducted an investigation into some forensic issues in my case. I'm not waffling, am I? I'm not.
No, I'm listening to you because I actually have a degree in criminology, policing, and forensic science. And when I researched your story, you can see that there was. It kind of looked to me as though it was a setup, as though they set you up.
Absolutely.
And the integrity of the forensic science that they had, there was no integrity. They didn't deal with it with the evidence with integrity. So for me, I think that they should overturn a conviction because there's a lot of evidence that suggests that you were set up.
Absolutely.
And when you go to court, it has to be beyond reasonable doubt. I don't think there was a beyond reasonable doubt in your case.
They had a 10-2 majority, and I was with Oxford University a department called Appeal, and they're looking at the 10-2 majorities because they believe that 10-2 is unsafe based on you can have people who are peer pressure, just want to go home, they don't want the armed police anymore around them, they don't want to be in hotels, you don't know if it's an 8 to 4 and 2 just swayed to go home. So they're looking at that. But if we just look at my case collectively, so I'm going to rewind a little bit, and if you are charged, so you've got a good understanding of the criminal justice system, the joint enterprise version. So if you are arrested for murder and there's evidence against you that the jury should go before the jury, but it wouldn't because of the judge directed to find my co-defendant not guilty at halfway submissions. My co-defendant had been telling people he was getting out early over the phone. There's records of that, saying his inmate keeps about getting out early. The corrupt police officer, Spackman, had been round his house during the trial and said, look, I'm not going anywhere, but my co-defendant was getting out. And I'm thinking, what is... And he told me that. My co-defendant told me that in front of police officers in a wagon which got an helicopter above it, armed police. And he says, the cop, that's back when we were around my house last night. He said, I'm getting out early, but you're going nowhere. And I looked at him. I haven't seen my co-defendant because he's been kept in prisons up and down the country having police visits. I didn't know that at the time. But the IRA lads that I was locked up with in Belmarsh Special Security Unit said, it's not right, Kevin. Your co-defendant's been kept from you for a reason.
Yeah, for a
not
reason.
Not right, Kevin. So he then appears in the unit, but on a different spur. We're kept apart. I'm now exceptional triple category A. So I'm behind a screen. All the evidence that was disclosed to me had to be discussed through a screen. Michael Howard was the prison director at the time, or the Home Office, he was the Home Secretary, should I say. He authorised legal bugging of my legal visits and said it wouldn't be used to influence a case against me. Come on, canteen culture, let's have it right.
Canteen culture. It looks very suspicious, The fact that they even put you in a category, category AAA, that's very rare. They hardly ever do that. So for them to do that, it's like they're trying to like keep you,
bolster the case, corral me into a conviction, get everything on me. How even the report said, how is he handling the unit? What's his mood like going into trial? They got me in the block all the time, segregation. The governor of the unit came down and said to me, he knew the police officers involved in my case. That's for another investigation, because I was being investigated for a number of murders that my co-defendant had told them that I'd done. Okay. And I said, well, you want to ask him how come he knows so much? Years later, I've said this. So we go to trial. There's a number of factors that have come out since, like his confidential chats where he says, I want to discuss the advantages of assisting the police with this inquiry, where I would supply details about who committed the murder, how much he was paid and how they did it.
Okay.
Now, he was charged with being at the scene of the murder. So how can you be supplying information on the murder if you're charged with murder and that doesn't go before a jury for them to consider? The officer in my case was handing all the evidence, all the exhibits had to go through him, disclosure had to go through him, and he, like I say, he was a handler. I never got a lot of disclosure, and disclosure is a big factor in miscarriages of justice now. For instance, I never got a statement until 12 years later when the gentleman who was caught with the car that was supposedly used in the murder said that my co-defendant that gave it to him approached him and asked to burn it. If I'd have had them statements, they'd have had to appear in a dock with me. And then obviously, well, hold on, he's saying they gave it to him to burn. They've been admitting to the murder. They've been bragging about the murder. They've got forensic residue on the bag as well, fingerprints. Other evidence that my co-defendants, I say it as if I know him, I only met him twice. My co-defendant's mother was slapped around the face 2 weeks before the murder by the deceased sister-in-law.
Okay.
They took in their daughter 2 weeks before to live with them. There was a dispute about it. So
that's a motive for him.
That was withheld from us. The SPACman did a trial run from the murder scene to the Ministry of Justice, where my co-defendant was first seen at work at 10 o'clock in the morning. So they did a trial run there by car and by train. One of the routes got him there at 20 past 10 and one got him there at 22:10. The judge stopped the trial and ordered the jury to find him not guilty based on it as a too close a proximity for it to go before a trial. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
Yet he was, like I say, admitting to the murder, bragging about the murder. He was first seen at work at 10 o'clock. Not only that, the police officer then got in the box and gave evidence supporting Vincent saying, well, he could have been there or he couldn't have been there. And he got a not guilty from that. He was then released without the evidence that we knew about him put before the jury, which was quite absurd, really, because there was a wealth of information against him. Even when he got arrested, he said, yeah, I've admitted to the murder, I've been giving it the large say and I've done it. All stuff like that. During the trial, the prosecution, please stop me if I'm going on a bit too much here, the prosecution told the jury, forensically you'll really appreciate this, told the jury that I'd gripped a Mossberg pump-action shotgun inside a black bin liner. There was one particle of evidence in that bin liner. Now, if a used gun or spent ammunition had been in that bag, you'd have hundreds or thousands of particles in it, not one particle.
You'd have residue.
They told the jury that the grip on my palm print that was found on that bag was consistent with me gripping a Mossberg pump action inside that bag. So as far as the jury are concerned, I've gripped a Mossberg pump action in that bag. The deceased was killed with a Mossberg pump action, and there's nitroglycerin or dinitrolone in there. Damning evidence for me. The Forensic Institute of Science, under the realm of Tracy Alexandra for the City of Westminster Police, and Mark Daly from Panorama and Louise Shortier from the Innocence Project, conducted a number of tests and said absolute rubbish, should never have been used. But in terms of the jury, they thought I've gripped a gun in a bag and I got a guilty. But the jury came back during the 10-2 majority and they said, can we find the defendant guilty if we don't think he was the gunman? Well, I could have only been one of the two based on the descriptions. One of the offenders was bald, one had dark hair, although it was shoulder length and wavy. My hair was like this when I was arrested, and 2 weeks before that, I arrived in the country with my hair like this.
So you didn't even fit the description?
Didn't even fit the description, okay? But
wow.
They're cleverly chosen words in theatrical performances can get around that. So, I lost my pattern of thought there.
They wanted to know if it was you that used.
Yeah, so the jury came back and said, can we find the defendant guilty if we don't think he was the gunman? The judge then turned around and says, if the defendant was a getaway driver of a car a mile down the road to the armed robbery, he is as guilty as the armed robbers. They then come back and found me guilty. But until they came back and asked that question, the Crown's case was, Lane is the gunman. Not he's had something to do with it, or he's gripped a gun in a bag, or flouring the evidence up, conjuring it up, making the evidence up about the gun and the bag. But that there was very damning for me. So then if you go further into that, then the investigation into my case, I got a guilty. My QC was friends with the prosecutor and they went to a rugby game at Twickenham during my trial together. I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
Further to that, there was a number of deals being done behind the scenes, PII deals, information going in front of the judge. Serving officers and non-serving officers, police officers, have come forward and said they've seen a statement that was written out naming me for the murder that the corrupt police officer Spackman wrote, and he wrote it in one of my co-defendants' names, or one of the original suspects' names, naming me for the murder, and that's put before the judge under PII.
And this Spackman, he was investigated, wasn't he, for
theft of £160,000 for his own police force, and he went to prison.
Wow.
But he was also sleeping with a number of police informers that he set up to get money from. As his police informers, he would feed them the information. And this came out in an investigation, by the way. It's not me saying this, it's factual. And he was also sleeping with one. And what do we know now about some police officers? Sleeping with victims or sleeping with whoever. And he was forcing sex upon this lady, as well as watering a cannabis plant factory under surveillance logs.
Yeah.
I've gone off track there a little bit. So the QC in my case, the prosecutor, died 4 weeks after the trial. He had a big tumor on his head, and he was allowed to bend the rules because he knew his time was limited. But at the hospice, Lord Chief Justice Rafferty sat down next to his bed, and they set up the Kalisher Trust. The Kalisher Trust is it was set up to fund or support trainee barristers in their career. Where do you think they were working? The Criminal Cases Review Commission.
Okay.
My case went before them 3 times. So they're looking at my paperwork being supported for their career by Kalisher. They're never going to overturn my conviction. I then wrote to the CCRC and I asked them if there's any staff within their organisation that knew police officers in my case or knew someone that knew them. They come back and said it was inevitable that someone did or someone knew them, but it wouldn't cause the impartial observer to form the view of biased. I then went back to them and said, is it correct that the former Chief Constable of Police of Hertfordshire at the time of my arrest is now one of your 14 CCR members? I mean, yes, it is. So he was in charge of my arrest. He's now working in an organisation that's overseeing my acquittal or looking to acquit me. There was then a number of investigations that came by, and one of them was instigated by Hertfordshire Police themselves, and it was called Operation Cactus. And the point of that was they were looking to recharge my co-defendant for the murder. However, the leading investigating officer in my case, Winnett, refused to be interviewed by his colleagues of his own police force, of their own investigation, and those police officers that were tasked with investigating this were refused access to all the papers in the case.
Wow.
How can that be? That's a waste of public money.
Yeah.
Then there was another investigation. Then that was springboarded by some documents that were sent to my solicitor from an anonymous source that came out of the police files. This is even more bizarre. So I wrote and I said, what you are going to do, because you learn the tactics of the criminal justice system, the CPS, how they fight, how they battle. And I ended up being able to predict what they would do next. And I said, they're going to get retired police officers to come out retired to conduct this investigation. And then they're going to go back into retirement and nothing's going to happen to them. So what happened? Retired police officers came out of retirement and the Court of Appeal said to the CCRC, we're not interested in what your view is, we just want reported on the facts. But they went back to Hertfordshire Police to do this investigation. So retired police have come out, they go into these boxes that they're tasked with to investigate where these documents have come from that have been sent to my solicitor anonymously, but it got me downgraded from cut A, bang, 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 and out the system. They were that worried about it, that's how serious it was. So 20 days after going into these boxes, these police officers, they went back to the CPS and said there's a conflict of interest. One of them was tutored by Spackman for 2 years, his first 2 years of his career, and the other one had worked on a number of high-profile cases with him as a conflict of interest. But by which time they've been into the boxes. When they were tasked with a job, what it was about, they'd have known there and then, wouldn't they? Why did they have to get into the boxes and then come forward? I'll leave you to make your own mind up about that and what really took place. So then I go up on appeal. 2 weeks before my appeal, Lord Chief Justice Hughes steps down. Because I will write to anybody, me. I write over 10,000 letters in prison. I didn't have a TV. I just worked on my case non-stop. And people will tell you that, literally non-stop. And I said, Your Honour, you need to realise that I want you to be aware of a number of factors that I think you are not aware of. And I sent him some material about how can you be charged with murder and then supply information on that murder, but then acquitted of that murder. The jury should have been allowed to ask you a question of how come you know so much. Yes. Okay, it's a massive factor. He stepped down. I think he was professionally embarrassed. But who do you think stepped in? Lord Chief Justice Rafferty. Okay. 2 weeks before my appeal and dismissed it. Yeah. My barrister, Joel Benathan, got upset in the court and swore.
It definitely, to me, sounds like a miscarriage of justice, if I'm honest with you. And I think that they didn't handle the case or the forensics with all the exhibits with integrity. So, if exhibits haven't been, there's a chain.
There is a chain.
There is a chain, yeah.
Chain of order, exhibits order.
Yes.
Signing in and out. Yeah. Signing in and out book.
Yeah. And if it's not handled in the correct way with integrity, then it should be thrown out. It shouldn't be able to go into court.
My first arrest, I got arrested on the 10th of January, kept me for 3 days, took my prints twice. I told my solicitor I've taken my prints twice. Didn't talk to them, of course. When they said, are you left or right-handed, I just held my left hand up, took my left hand print. The bag that was in the exhibits room was taken out of the exhibits room with no co-assigning signatures to it. And it's the only time there was no co-assigning signatures to that bag.
Yeah, and you have to sign it, you have to put a date and time on it, you have to write what the exhibit is. So it's, again, they didn't handle the exhibits with integrity, which is a major factor.
Well, it's taken out of the exhibits room and no one can say why. But it's taken out at the same time I had my fingerprints taken for a second time. And then the bag was sent off to be examined again for a second time and they found my print on it. And then come back and re-arrested me. And in court they said, under new forensic evidence found, we have Lane's print on a bag that's got firearm residue on it. Wow. And I'm looking for, we didn't have it last time, but you got it now.
Yeah.
I got remanded. And then they built a case around me.
And the thing is, that doesn't make sense because when they did it the first time, obviously it was at an earlier time. So the residue would have still been fresh.
3 months they had that bag before they arrested me.
It would have been fresh. So why they didn't find it the first time is beyond me. It's definitely some form of foul play. Definitely.
Oh, foul play to the highest form.
Yeah.
And there's these factors that are in my book that I say, well, listen, if it isn't true, get a black order on it. Get the bloody book shut down. Well, they can't because I've got all the documentation to substantiate that.
Yeah.
And I remember writing to the Chief Crown Prosecutor and he wrote back to him and said, you are not to be replied to. There's been a letter placed in your file. You are not to be replied to anymore when we see about that. I wrote him another letter, didn't I? He only wrote to me and says, can I ask that you use me as principal point of contact in relation to this matter? I thought you changed your mind, didn't you? A bit lively. Yeah. And then the bugger took early retirement. Because I said, you are aware of material that exists that undermines my conviction. Mm-hmm. And that means you are guilty as a result of that. And he took early retirement. And when I made some further inquiries, they said, we cannot understand why he's taken early retirement. He's not ill. Mm. Yeah. And I believe also that Spackman could not have fitted me up on his own because other officers would have been aware of other evidence that I am aware of now that was existed that undermined my conviction. So Spackman said, if I go down, you lot are all going with me. And that goes right to the very top. Mm. And so, for instance, Spackman wouldn't have been the only police officer that was aware of signing in at the Ministry of Defence and video image. Well, Spackman got in the box and said that all records signing in at the Ministry of Defence and videos have been destroyed. They get destroyed after 3 months. He said it's now 6 months or whatever it was. I mean, we went to trial in November, so it was nearly 11 months. But he said by the time he went to there, it was 6 months after and they destroyed them. And he was the one who was and that's all recorded. Okay, so I can't say his name. My co-defendant's saying it. He's saying over a prison phone it was recorded, and he said it in the back of a van in front of police officers and prison officers, and they write everything down. But nonetheless, he said it over the prison phone. After he was acquitted, the same copper goes round his house, and the co-defendant makes a statement saying, he came round my house a couple of weeks after I was released to return my property. I invited him in.
Okay.
Yeah. Prior to that, when I was on remand in the police station, or say under arrest, Spackman shoots up to Woodhill Prison to visit the original suspect, and then turns out to be my co-defendant. And the co-defendant comes down and he says, I shook their hands, I tell you I know him. I was a witness once in a very serious case where my life is under threat, and I received a commendation from the judge for being brave enough to stand up and give evidence. Well, that was against his co-defendant. What he did was him and another fella called Smith had kidnapped someone with another fella called Donnellan, and they took him to a golf club and they slashed him to pieces and things like that. Smith was put on remand in another prison and Donnellan in another prison, getting notes that also my co-defendant was going to Donnellan to get notes that it was meant to be given back to Smith, that it was handed to Spackman. Yes. And then Donnellan thought that the co-defendant was coming to court to give evidence on his behalf. He got in the box against him.
Wow. Got
him 19 years. And what do you think Smith got for false imprisonment, grievous bodily harm with malicious wounding, something else? He got 280 hours community service. Yeah.
Yeah, something's definitely not right there.
Not right, is it? So then Spackman then comes into the case years later. He's their handler, going round their house. He feels confident to go around his house on his own.
So they've obviously built some form of...
He says he had a relationship with him. He bought in his interviews. He said, I built a rapport up with him in a relationship.
I bet he did.
That's what he says, yeah. I think that one of them might have been giving him one. Probably the Ronnie out of the two of them. So there was that. And it's so overwhelming. It's a lot for people to take in.
Yeah.
But when you start telling them about police working in areas where they shouldn't have been working and so on and so forth, and then making me exceptional triple category A, the only man in the country at the time.
Yeah, because I've never ever heard of that even the triple category A exists.
No, and I till they bleeding made me it. I never heard of high risk until they made me high risk.
How you knew it existed from what you knew when you...
A lot of people say I'm talking rubbish to say he's an idiot.
No, because you can actually Google it. You can actually, you
so those dopey they are, didn't they?
I wanted to ask you. So you see, before you got your sentence, was you thinking like, because obviously you didn't do the crime, did you think that there was a possibility that you may not get sentenced, or did you know that they were?
I know I was getting guilty because the evidence was being false.
And how many years did they sentence you? Was it 20?
Well, they asked for 30 years in court.
Wow.
And told the judge, without a doubt, I was responsible for this murder, and without a doubt I'd committed others, and without a doubt I'd done another one. And I'm sitting there thinking, can't be me they're talking about, surely. Never been arrested for gun crime in my life. Like, never, right? And then I'm thinking, this isn't right. And I recall saying to my mum, look, you better prepare yourself, I'm going to get guilty here because the evidence is false. And I know it's false, and blah, blah, blah. And I was right. So I turned to the jury when I got guilty and said, you've made a terrible mistake, I never did this. And I went straight back to the unit. They moved me to Whitemoor Special Secure Unit. It had been after the escape, so it had been heightened in security. And I started my fight for my appeal there and then.
So when the judge gave you the sentence, because a sentence like that, that's a huge sentence. Well, how was you what was your feeling? What was
I didn't get my tariff until I said to him, how long have I got to do? He said, take him down, I'll sentence you to life. But I didn't understand at the time the difference between a recommendation and a tariff. A tariff is sent by the Home Secretary. A recommendation is set by the judge in court that you will serve a minimum of whatever he says. And then we will look to send you home. So I was looking and he ain't give me a sentence. And I thought, okay, I'll get a tariff. And then it was explained to me. 3 years later, I'm walking down to get my tea at the servery, although I cooked my own food in high security, but it was New Year's Eve. And there was a prison officer who was a bit of an arsehole. And he if you had something to speak to her about it, it wouldn't be good. And he went, Kevin, might have been Lane. Most of the screws called me, well, they all called me Kevin, unless I really didn't fucking like them. Governors and the prison directors all used to call me Kevin, out of respect, which I thought was really decent of them. He said, I've got something for you. I said, what is it? He handed me my tariff. It was 18. I went, fucking hell, what a result! Okay. And he's looked at me thinking, you're nuts, you've just got 18 years and you're cheering. Yeah, well, I thought I was getting 30. So I've just got 12 years off. So instead of coming home at bleeding 45, or I come home at 47 in the end, I'd have been bleeding 59. Another 12 years and more.
Wow.
But so you can imagine how I felt. And I got the sentence, and then I had something to aim for then. However, they gave me a natural life in 2010 in that they said you shall remain in prison indefinitely if you don't do the offending behaviour courses. Well, how can I do the offending behaviour course if I can't discuss the index offence?
It must, because I watched the documentary with your son.
Yeah, Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy. He's so sweet. And
he's a little bastard, 6'3", you little bastard.
He looks like you.
He's a good kid.
You quite a lot as well. He's a handsome little boy. He was doing like the ironing and stuff, and he's got a little girl, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got three kids. Lovely boys, my boys are.
Yeah.
Kind, and none of them turn around to violence.
Oh.
None of them. And I've taught them to box since they were kids. And you would never know. They don't fight. They don't do none of that shit.
It must have been really hard for him because he was saying, you know, like he didn't have a dad for so many years, and then he was saying about his child that they didn't get to see their grandfather, you know, and it's like, it touched me, you know. I had tears, like I cried, because firstly it's a miscarriage of justice, and it not only affects you, it's affecting your family as well, you know, your kids and your kids' kids. It was really sad, you know, to watch it.
You know, yeah, it was sad. And what about when he turns around and he says, what we've got to do is got to stick together. So we can do, innit, he says. Stick together,
he came up to visit you.
And we come through it. And now my boys have got that in them, and I'm proud of that. And not just my boys, you know, I've got 4 boys, and I've got a girl.
Okay.
And I'm very lucky to have that still with spending such a long time in prison.
Yeah.
I might make a few more, I ain't decided. Just looking for a few candidates.
Why not? Well,
I want someone to visit me when I'm old.
Oh, it's true, because when you're old, it's your kids that look after you, isn't it?
Yeah, bleeding. Oh, God. That's I'm JVing with a company of tier 1 in this country. So I design homes now, and I've designed a home that's being copied in a factory in this country that has been imported. And I said, that's my design. They said, oh, you know it is.
Yeah, I saw it on your stories. It's
so
amazing.
Proud.
Yeah, I'm really proud of you. It's amazing what you're doing. Amazing.
I try. Like, God loves to try, eh?
You know, what I really respect about you is the fact that, you know, you went to jail, you done a long bird for something that you didn't do, and you came out, you know, you're still happy, you're still positive, you know, you're still, you know, you're doing things with your life. Like, it's amazing, because some people will come out traumatized, affected, you know, like, even, like, have mental issues, you know, like
I've got mental issues.
No.
I accept I got a few of them.
No, you seem good to me. You seem, you know, you're always happy, you're always smiling, you're out here trying to do something with your life, you know. And to me, I greatly respect that. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you, T. I mean, I'm lucky to have the people around me. Some people say you can count your best friends on one hand. I have to say I've got a lot more friends than that have been through me. So, for instance, I went on accumulated visits to a prison once. I was there 7 weeks. I had a different visit every single day for 7 weeks. Every single day by different people. And there's family and friends, and mostly friends, to be honest with you, and the odd family because commitments, and they couldn't get in. My mum only got in to see me twice in them 7 weeks because all the visits were booked.
Okay.
250 Christmas cards a year whilst in prison. Staff like me, some didn't, but majority liked me. They said, Lane's good for the wing. He doesn't suffer falls easily. Don't tell him black is white, you'll have a problem. This is on my security file when I landed somewhere. This is what they said. They said, don't tell Lane black is white, you will have a problem. Lane will use extreme violence if he has to. If he says he's going to do something, he will do it. He doesn't suffer falls. Lane drinks, manage him. So I was in negotiation with the Home Office about my drinking.
Okay.
He drinks, manage him. So what happened was when I was in the units, I was getting Lego behind the door.
Was you making?
Yeah, I make my hooch. Okay. I'm going to go into production with my own hooch now. I've had people test it and say it's beautiful.
Okay.
Right, like you.
Oh, thank you.
So they make I used to get drunk in my cell, and I'll be Lego on the floor naked, and they'd come and have to put me to bed because I was that category I was at, all right?
Naked?
Oh, yeah, I'll take my clothes. Well, you do, didn't you? Get your clothes off. And I'd go, in the end, when I came out of the units, the special security units, and went on the mainstream landings, I'll tell you this story in a minute, right? So, in the mornings I come out, and I don't know they've been in and put me to bed. I've just gone over in the night, drinking on the floor, and they've had to come and see if I'm okay. And I come out in the morning and I go, whoa, all right, Noel, all right. Then they go, all right, they was in on you again last night. I said, was there any women there? Because I was naked. I thought, oh, fucking hell, I've had another woman in there having a spy on me, right? But the funny part about it all is, when the unit got reopened in Whitemore after the escape of the IRA boys, and Andy Russell escaped out of there with an armed escape, it was the most observed building in Europe with 70-odd cameras on it and in it, all right? And I got checked every 20 minutes, as we all did in there. 2 deadbolts on the door with a Chubb padlock. They took them off, and then the door was opened by a control centre outside of the unit. I mean, it's a bit mental, isn't it? Mm. So Wayne Hurren was in there. He's dead now, Wayne. I don't believe in God, but whoever's listening, look after that man, because I love him to bits. And Wayne he was on medication because they used to give him what's called the liquid cosh, where they'd inject you and you're out for days, and they used to come in and beat him up and stuff like that. On this occasion, they was going in and beating him up, and his brother come up to visit him, and he didn't even recognise him, walked past him on the table with his face and eyes was all closed, we'd been had a good hiding whilst asleep. So Wayne ended up on some medication, but his faculties were all there. But he used to walk, just plod about with his dressing gown on in the unit. What you got to get dressed for? He used to put 5-litre container down his boxer shorts and just walk about like this, moving it from one spot to the other. And they all they see was Wayne walking about, right, with his dressing gown on. So we'd take it in the TV room, put it on the floor. They had a camera on the stair, and staff watching the stair. Wayne's got a 5-litre container there, keeping it warm, keeping it cooking. Right? And then they'd be in and out the cells like they were all day long, checking cells and fabric checks underneath your bed and all that. But don't worry, we got the baby in between Wayne's bollocks.
Warming up.
And then we got drunk in there. They said, how is he done it? We watch him all the time. There's cameras everywhere, staff everywhere. He's got a drink down. Of course, in their eyes, they think he's got a drink down. What else can they get down?
Yeah.
But we got a drink down, and then they downgraded me because I kept fighting with the mufti in there, the riot squads and stuff. So I just couldn't handle the unit. I was a miscarriage of justice thing. I'm not having this. 8 pieces of toilet paper a day to wipe my arse, and I've got to get on the bell and say, can I have some more toilet paper? I'm not having that. I said,
very privacy, a lot of restrictions.
You can't get on the rope because every 20 minutes you've got some geezer looking through the fucking window. Let's have it right. You're men who had sex removed from them. That's a natural reaction. And it's taken away from you, and then it creates a massive amount of testosterone. You're like a chimpanzee. It's got to go somewhere. What do they do in Europe? They give you conjugal visits. It's a settling factor. And you've got something to work towards in that you've got a mother who will have the same father to the children. So a unit where they keep tight. And it gives that person something to hold on to for 20 years or something. And that wife.
I think that they should do that because, that would actually help them a lot. If prisoners have visits like that, that will calm them down a lot, And it's a human right. It's a human right.
It's a bloody human. It's in us.
Yeah.
And then you want to take it away from us. Why do you think prisoners cuddle all the time? Because they're starved of love and affection. And I've viewed this and monitored it, and in my own head I could see where things are drastically wrong within the criminal justice system. And so much so, prison directors said it's always worth listening to what Kevin has to say. And on a recall, there was a governor there called Ian van der Sloot. What an excellent governor. A proper man. He would come in on the ones where the servery is, and staff would be unloading the trolleys. He would bloody unload it with them. And he'd walk the landings on his own, and he would take your name down on his hand if he didn't have any writing paper, and he would come back to you. You don't see many governors on the landings no more, and if you do, they've got staff with them. That man felt so confident on his own because he was a decent man. And he put me forward to be on a board that was a government-registered board to have an input into how prison should be run in changes. And I made 5 recommendations in relation to Highdown, and I implemented them.
Okay.
So I must have something to say.
Yeah, maybe you should try to see if they can implement congregational visits.
Conjugal visits.
Conjugal visits, yeah.
They went to look at it in 2006. They sent a consortium of governors and Ministry of Defence officials to America to look at this. That was in 2006, so nearly 20 years later, or 17 years later, we still haven't had any. And they may say that C-cats and D-cats are getting that. Well, all right, it's a little bit different. They're getting that out, aren't they? Unless they're getting it with the staff, of course, which that happens on so much now in the lower categories. They're all at it. They're like rabbits. Terrible.
What's the most craziest thing that you experienced in prison?
Sticking a tube up my arse with puff in it.
Okay.
That ain't nice for a man, especially if you're not gay. But you end up having to stick that up your backside for years. Or the wildest thing I've ever seen, violence-wise. No, the weirdest thing I've seen is men walking around the prison with tits, dressed as women. Yeah, or going through the hormonal changes. So, if ever I get a big sentence again, I'm getting a pair of tits and I'm going over in a women's nick. Hey, give me a bit of bleeding, whatever they give you to stop you getting the old pork dagger hard, and then go over there and shackle up with a bird. Why do I want to be shackled up with men? But they're allowing that now.
Yeah, I saw one of your podcasts when you were speaking about the paedophiles that are in the prisons.
Terrible amount of them.
Yeah, I was watching that and I wanted to ask you about it.
They tried to do integration in the Wise magazine, prison magazine, so an integration, and there was a race relations concert, and the vicar come and give me a ticket, and psychologists come up to me and said, "What do you think about integration?" So I'm not having it. I'm not having paedophiles living on the wing with me that I know are paedophiles, or if I don't, and they come and say, "Oh, nice pictures of your kids," and my letters are put on my bed, and they've got my addresses. So it's not right, and then you're going to have a lot of problems with other prisoners who are in murders and assaults and all sorts. But they was doing it for cost, of course. So I went to this race relations concert, and I walked in, and it was packed. And I sat down and looked up at the band. Well, I would chase one of these fellas off the wing for killing old age pensioners, torturing them for their bleeding savings across Europe. I thought, you're getting it. He obviously had to leave the wing. And next thing you know, race relations was bacon relations, paedophiles, performing for us to entertain us. I stood up. I said, this is bacon relations and we should be bashing them, not clapping them. And the governor goes, get him out, get him out. I said, I'm fucking leaving. Don't worry about that. All screws surrounding me and marched me back to the wing. So you don't need, I'm going anyway. And I left. And then they said that Lane threatens a smooth transition of the prison service. That was in my Category A reports by what I said then. And that's why I was coming up and saying, what do you think about integration? Because people, they liked me because I didn't tread on anybody's toes. And I was very respectful and very happy in the prison. But I'd also have a fight with you if you really had to. Or if you was picking on someone and I didn't like it, I'd say, I couldn't live with myself. Because I thought, I can do something about this and that man's suffering. And I am going to do something about it because now I feel it's an attack on me. Because you know I like that person and what you're doing to that person ain't right. And I wouldn't feel right within myself if I didn't put a stop to that.
I respect that.
And it got me in a lot of trouble in prison, but got me a lot of respect. I had 4 contracts on my life. None of them took it off, 100 grand at a time. Victor Castigo, I can never pronounce Vic's name, but go on prison on YouTube, you'll see Victor, he's in a yellow suit, he's a little Philippine fella. Dangerous little bastard. I used to call him 4 to a gallon because he set fire to 4 people in the Soho arcade downstairs, put them in a cage, and then set them alight. So I called him 4 to a gallon. Well, and then he was asked to kill me. Dave Bieber was asked to kill me, shot the police officers. He's just been found guilty for trying to cut a prison officer's head off, woman, in Long Larton. He come up to me and he had real piercing eyes. He said, Kevin, he says, I thought I'd better tell you because I don't want you to find out and then we fall out because I haven't told you and you think I was plotting against you, but I like you, Kevin. I said, fucking hell, that's the result. He said, I've been asked to kill you. I said, well, thanks for telling me. Yeah. And he's looking at me straight through me, right? But it showed that he had respect for me to tell me that. Then Victor come and told me. Then another person come and told me. I can't mention his name because I haven't got permission, and someone else did. So I had 4 people asked to kill me because I was bringing awareness to my conviction, about bringing awareness to who really put me in, and he was working with the police. So they wanted it shut up, and they still want it shut up today. But I stayed in the same cell in the same prison for 3.5 years, and no one ever made an attempt on me. And I got moved around the prison system, and the same thing kept happening. He said, well, you know, you've got to go on protection. I said, I'm staying in that cell, and if you put me on protection, I'll be in the block, because you're going to have to fight me to get me in there, and I will be going to the block because I'll be fighting with you, and I will not be going on protection. You will have me in the block because I'm fighting with you lot, because you want to put me on the fucking whatever wing. And that is not happening. I'm staying on that bloody cell. And of course they left me. And no one's ever tried to kill me. Only the exes. Hey? That one over there. Hey? Don't look at me like that. So, we digressed there. So,
you said that you got into quite a few fights and stuff. What can you tell me a little bit about that? Why you got into
the first person I knocked out as an inmate was a supergrass, and he was in the special secure unit. So I landed in Whitemore Special Secure Unit. Prior to that, I'd had staff come down to Belmarsh to interview me to make my transition into the unit easy. I've never heard of that before. They were sitting at the end of an adjudication table, miles away from me. And I said, I don't give a monkeys. I'm going to smash your unit up when I get there, and I'm going to burn it to the ground. I'm not having none of it. I've just been found guilty. And I'm not having, like I said, 8 pieces of toilet paper and get on the bell, can I have some more, please, to wipe my backside. So I'm not coming in under this regime. So when I landed there, they took me there onto the unit over bang up, and all the lads are shouting to me out the window. And Kevin, don't wait till the door's open, we're going to come round and see you and all this stuff. I went, you know. The door opened. I looked to the right. Now there's a fella coming down doing this, right? About 6'3", 6'4", and he had a Geordie. He was a son, Mackham. He was for Sunderland, but they sound pretty much the same up there if you can't really understand the dialect. And I knew the only one in that unit with that accent was the grass. So I was doing 1,000 press-ups a day at that point, 500 minimum. That was just walking around, pissing about, playing backgammon stuff. And I'd do some in my cell, proper ones and all, not them half reps that your nan and granddad does. All different types and all under here and proper extension, looking up. So my arms are like iron. And that's why I say box, you should do more of them, because when you hit someone, your arms are like concrete. And it's been hit with like concrete instead of just a tough muscle. Well, I hit this geezer with the right hand. Then I hit him with a left as he was going down. He was already asleep as he was going down. And I leant over him and I said, no one can ever say I've ever told him something. Because I've just knocked him out. He's a grass. I'm not having him making up stuff against me. Staff were all surrounding me and all like that. He said, you've got to go to the block, Kevin. I went, no problem. Put me in the block. Didn't wrap me up. Didn't strip me and put me in the box, which is not a very nice place to be in. It's just concrete floor. No clothes, no blanket. Naked. I've said a couple of times, like I said, if it had been warm, I'd give them something to fucking write about. Because they had a parapet wall upstairs, they could walk around and observe you like an animal in a pit.
So what, they put you in the box and you're not allowed to wear clothes?
Well, they take them off you because if you're being violent, they'd strip you naked to make you feel vulnerable.
Wow.
But then in the end, you get so used to it, I was taking my clothes off 14 times once, back and forth to court, in court, solicitor, barrister, and it's closed visit, but they still strip search me. Mental.
Wow, that's shocking.
It's shocking when you're laying on the floor and you're getting sores on your body because you're left in there for a very long period of time, and you're only meant to be in there till you cease being violent, not days and days and days. And signed off. I
mean, I know about the block, but I've never ever heard about them making you strip down naked and putting you in the block naked.
They cut your clothes off you with big shears. And I said, you cut my clothes if I'm going to hit one of you, the first chance I get. These are my clothes, you take them off me properly. And because the only staff that could work in the units were the ones that were cleared, so they knew I'd see them again. So we had a working relationship. Don't go over the top. We've had the tear up. And I said, right, it's over now. No more. Don't you go over hand. Just get me in the box. And that was the relationship. We've had the fight. Are you all right now, Kevin? Yeah, it's over now. Just get me in the box. And that was a working relationship. And it worked well. So they take me in the box, and I lost track of time in there. You lose track of days and nights.
You don't know if it's day or night.
You know if it's day, but you lose track of the day because you're coming together. You're trying to sleep standing up. You're sleeping on your back, sleeping on your side. You've got sores on your body. And then they take clothes and it off you because cold, the sun goes down, you shiver. All right, and then your teeth are going and you're freezing and you're naked. And they're coming in dressed in right stuff all the time, putting your food on the floor. Remain still, keep your hands down the side, put your legs out in front of you. I said, just put the food down and get out of my cell. All right. So in one instance, they wrapped up a fellow called Matthew Williams. We had a peaceful demonstration. We said, we're not working in this unit no more under these conditions. Simple, but it's not going to clean it. Weren't threatening violence. What happened? In the morning, I opened the door in the riot stuff. And I'm thinking, I'll get agitated. And I think, you're threatening me now. You're at the door in riot stuff. And we only said we're not cleaning. They've gone in on Matthew Williams and wrapped him up. Very dangerous man, capabilities for what he could do with his brain. But violence-wise, with his hands, none. But they wrapped him up because they didn't like him because he could poison you. He's very clever like that. And they wrapped him up. And I said, I got on the bell. And the screw come to the door. He said, what is it, Lane? And I went, he called me Lane. He called me Lane or Kevin, depends. I can't remember now. But Kevin, actually, his name, he called me. And I said, do you know when two boxers are in the ring and the bell goes off? He went, yeah. I said, the bell's just gone off. Go and get your kit on. I walked back to the cell, took my mum's own and knitted jumper off. I thought, I'm not getting this torn. And then had the tear up with him. All right. So they went and got kitted up because they knew when that door was open, it was going off. I ended up in the... And I took the shield man out, all right, and knocked him out. His helmet come off, and I had to pull him out by his feet. But as they're pulling him out by his feet, they couldn't get in. So I'm trading with them. They're hitting me with the coshes and punching me with the leather gloves. And I had a big split in my eye, open like a melon. So I've ended up in the box on this occasion. And they were coming in at 11 o'clock at night. Bearing in mind this happened about 2 in the afternoon. So all those hours later, my eyes closed. And it's an open split wound. So
they didn't even get...
They came in with Pip, a little lady called Pip, a nurse. And she goes, get out of the way. You all right, Kevin? I knew Pip from, obviously. And she's gone, give him something to cover himself up with. All right? Wouldn't turn the light on, because then I've got a little bit of a level of advantage if I want to kick off, if I do kick off. So he did it under a torch that was being held over the shields while she sewed me up. And she sewed it up with no anaesthetic and no anaesthetist. And then after she sewed it up, she said, Kevin, I'm ever so sorry, I've got to do it again because it's not straight. Because she couldn't see. She was sewing my eye up in raw flesh under torch. Wow. And I nearly passed out with the pain. And she had to do it again. And I sat there, and it reminded me of Rambo, the film when he's sewing himself up. I'm no bloody Rambo. But I thought, I tell you what, I now know what that film portrayed. Because I nearly passed out. It's raw, there's no painkiller, nothing. And that's what they've done to me in that box. But it was character building. I've come out of the other side all right, I think.
Yeah, they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah. But I laugh about it now. I mustn't, because if you get bitter about it, it will change your personality.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. I like to be happy when I can and surround myself with good people.
The day that you came out, how did that feel?
Well, like a sponge, because the hardest fight of my life was getting out of prison. Not boxing, not fighting in the street. Emotionally, mentally, having the duration, the ability to keep going. The most tragic of pitfalls that you experience during that life sentence. People dying. My fiancée got killed in a car crash. That was very hard. She was a sweet girl. Things like that. But when I got released...
when you stepped out of that prison?
God, I went to Hull first of all on a town visit. There's all people with fully coloured hair and different languages, like big bumper trainers. I thought, bloody hell, like, there's loads of different languages around here now. I went for a Chinese and went and got my hair cut. Loved it.
Nice.
Loved it. And then when I got finally released, I thought, this is it now. And I went straight to work there and then. When I got myself a truck off of a pal of mine, give me a truck, paid him for that, bought another truck, set up a business, went to work, and then within just over nearly 2 years, I acquired a number of contracts, and one company I took 1.7 million off of them in one site. Groceries for show, profits for dough. I had a nice lifestyle, nice car, stay where I want, nice house, from working hard. So I just absorbed life and loved it. And I couldn't do a sat-nav. I didn't know about Bluetooth. I didn't know about memorable information, passwords, different coloured bins.
What about like social media and stuff? Instagram?
I had no idea at all. I video myself when I'm Lago and put it up on a social, talking to myself eating a kebab. And that was quite funny, things like that. And then